Chances are you've used a satellite dozens of times in the last 24 hours without a second thought. Checking your bank balance, getting directions, seeing if a storm's rolling in. Our entire modern world is built on a fragile, invisible architecture of assets flying hundreds of miles above our heads. But what if it all just went dark? What if the very fabric of our connected lives was suddenly ripped apart, not by a natural disaster, but by an act of war? In late 2021, Russia deliberately blew up one of its own satellites. It created a cloud of thousands of pieces of lethal debris that put the International Space Station on high alert. This wasn't just a test, it was a chilling message, a signal that the battle for the final frontier has already begun and the infrastructure of our world is the target. This isn't science fiction anymore. This is the new terrifying reality of geopolitics. So the question isn't if a war will be fought in space, but how it will be fought and who will win. This is a wake-up call, a crucial look at the silent, escalating conflict unfolding above our heads, and why it matters to every single one of us. For most of history, space was about exploration, a symbol of what humanity could achieve. The first space race was a contest of ideas, a sprint to the moon to prove which system was superior. It was a grand, aspirational endeavor, pushing the boundaries of human ingenuity and cooperation, even amidst Cold War tensions. The very idea of weaponizing this pristine domain seemed anathema to its spirit. But Space Race 2.0 is playing by a whole different set of rules. This isn't about national pride anymore, it's about national power, raw and unvarnished. The romantic notion of space as a peaceful sanctuary, a realm solely for scientific discovery and human expansion, has been brutally replaced by a much harsher reality. The silent vacuum above us has become the most critical and potentially the most explosive battlefield of our time. Space has become the ultimate high ground, an operational domain absolutely essential for any modern military. Without it, economies would grind to a halt, and armies would be fighting blind. Satellites are the new central nervous system of global power, controlling everything from your GPS to your bank transactions to the precision-guided weapons that define modern warfare. They provide the eyes, ears, and voice for virtually every aspect of our interconnected world. This profound dependency is the core vulnerability of the 21st century. The very systems that run our lives make us incredibly open to attack, a glaring Achilles heel in our digital age. Our rivals have taken notice, meticulously studying our reliance and developing strategies to exploit it. Without space, modern society would simply stop working. Our global economy would collapse, communication networks would fail, and essential services would cease. This shift marks the dawn of astrogeopolitics, where the strategic advantage lies not just on land or sea, but in the orbital highways above. The old-school view of space as a peaceful sanctuary is being replaced by a much harsher reality. Pandora's box has been opened, and the weapons for this new conflict are already being built, tested, and moved into position, threatening to turn the cosmos into a chaotic war zone. Three main players dominate this new contested arena, each with its own game plan, its own ambitions, and its own arsenal. Understanding their strategies is key to grasping the complexities of this silent war. The stakes are incredibly high, as the balance of power on Earth increasingly hinges on who controls the orbital domain. First, you have the United States, the established leader. For decades, America set the standard in space, building a vast network of military and civilian satellites that underpinned its global dominance. Its early lead in the space race translated into an unparalleled advantage in intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, ISR, and global communications. But being the leader means you have the most to lose, a sprawling, complex infrastructure that presents numerous targets. The US now has to defend this vital architecture from a growing list of sophisticated threats. Its main strategy is no longer to go it alone. The US Space Force, established in 2019, has recently been pushing its international partnership strategy built on a simple but powerful idea. Space power is the ultimate team sport. Realizing no single nation can secure space on its own, the US is building a web of deep alliances with other spacefaring nations like the UK, Australia, Canada, France, Germany, and Japan. Crucially, it's also forging unprecedented partnerships with the private sector, leveraging commercial innovation to enhance resilience and capabilities. This collaborative approach aims to create a robust, distributed network that is far harder to disrupt. Then there's the ambitious challenger, China. Beijing is methodically building a parallel universe in space, a comprehensive and independent space infrastructure designed to rival and eventually surpass that of the United States. It has its own global navigation satellite system called Beidou, its own space station, Tiangong, and it's rapidly expanding its fleet of military satellites for surveillance, communications, and electronic warfare. US officials have warned that China's ability to field advanced military space systems is quickly closing the gap, and in some areas may even be pulling ahead. They've demonstrated sophisticated capabilities, including dogfighting maneuvers between satellites, showcasing their ability to approach and potentially interfere with other spacecraft. China is also pioneering in-orbit satellite refueling and servicing, a critical step for reusable and potentially weaponized space systems that can operate for extended periods. China's goal is crystal clear: erode American influence and establish itself as the world's top space power by 2030, fundamentally reshaping the global strategic landscape. Finally, there's Russia, the legacy power with a knack for disruption. While it might not have the economic engine of the other two, Russia uses its deep experience in space to play the role of a spoiler, leveraging its historical expertise and existing infrastructure. Its focus is on potent counter-space weapons designed to neutralize the advantages of its rivals, particularly the US and its allies. Russian satellites have been spotted practicing attack and defend tactics in orbit, exhibiting highly unusual maneuvers that suggest offensive capabilities. Some of these satellites are believed to be armed with various non-kinetic or even kinetic payloads. On top of that, intelligence reports suggest Russia may be developing a nuclear anti-satellite weapon, a terrifying idea that would violate the 1967 Outer Space Treaty and could destabilize the entire domain, creating an unprecedented level of risk. The board is set. The pieces are moving. So how would they actually fight a war up there in the silent, unforgiving vacuum of space? A war in space would look nothing like the movies. There's no sound, no fireballs, just the cold, hard physics of orbital mechanics and the silent, devastating precision of advanced technology. The weapons fall into two main categories: non-kinetic and kinetic. each with its own unique set of risks and implications. Understanding these distinctions is crucial to comprehending the true nature of this potential conflict. Non-kinetic attacks are the invisible weapons of space warfare. They're designed to disrupt, disable, or hijack a satellite without physically blowing it up, leaving no debris and often no immediate visible trace. This makes attribution difficult and escalation pathways ambiguous. This includes electronic warfare like jamming, which drowns a satellite's receiver in overwhelming noise, effectively blinding or deafening it. Spoofing, another form of electronic attack, feeds a satellite fake information, leading it to believe it's in a different location or receiving legitimate commands. We're already seeing widespread GPS jamming and spoofing around global conflict zones, impacting everything from commercial aviation to military operations. Then there are cyber attacks targeting the ground stations that control the satellites. If you control the ground station, you control the satellite, potentially turning it into a weapon or simply rendering it useless. These attacks can be incredibly sophisticated, exploiting vulnerabilities in software or network infrastructure. And finally, you have directed energy weapons, lasers, that can dazzle or permanently blind the sensitive optical sensors on a spy satellite, turning a billion-dollar asset into space junk without creating any debris. These soft kill methods are insidious because they are deniable and reversible, at least in theory, making them attractive for initial strikes. Kinetic attacks, on the other hand, are brutally physical and far more dangerous for everyone, carrying the risk of catastrophic, irreversible consequences. The most famous is the Direct Ascent Anti-Satellite Missile, or ASAT, like the one Russia tested in 2021. These are launched from Earth to simply smash into a target satellite at incredible speeds, obliterating it. The impact generates immense energy, turning the target into a cloud of high-velocity shrapnel. There are also co-orbital weapons, basically killer satellites that can maneuver right up to a target. These could be equipped with robotic arms to grapple and disable, nets to ensnare, or even just ram into another satellite to damage it or knock it out of orbit. Both China and Russia have launched highly maneuverable satellites that US officials believe are designed for exactly this purpose, capable of inspecting, repairing, or more ominously, destroying other satellites. The single greatest danger from any kinetic attack is space debris. A tiny screw orbiting Earth is traveling at over 17,000 miles per hour. At that speed, it has the kinetic energy of a bowling ball. A single satellite shattering can create thousands of these projectiles, each a potential bullet. This risks a chain reaction known as the Kessler syndrome. That's where collisions create more debris, which leads to more collisions until low Earth orbit becomes a lethal, unusable minefield for centuries. This is the real nightmare scenario of space warfare. Once you start it, the consequences could be irreversible for all of us, rendering a vital domain unusable for generations. Faced with this new reality, the United States is rapidly shifting its strategy from just having a presence in space to active defense and deterrence. The goal isn't necessarily to fight and win a war in space, but to make the cost of starting one astronomically high for any opponent. This strategy rests on two crucial pillars: new alliances and hybrid architectures designed to build resilience and dissuade aggression. The first pillar is to create a coalition so strong that an attack on one is an attack on all. The Space Force's international partnership strategy is the roadmap for this, recognizing that collective security is the only viable path forward. The idea is to build an integrated network of allies, all using compatible systems and sharing information to create a resilient web that's much harder to take down. This involves not just sharing data, but also developing common operational pictures and interoperable command and control systems. Large-scale exercises like Resolute Space 2025 are designed to test this allied by design concept, bringing together international partners to train for complex orbital warfare scenarios. By training together, sharing tactics, techniques, and procedures, they send a clear message of collective strength and resolve. This unified front aims to present a formidable deterrent, making any adversary think twice before targeting a single nation's space assets. The second pillar, and this might be the game changer, is the deep integration of the commercial space industry. In the past, military space was largely a government-only club, characterized by bespoke, expensive, and slow-to-develop systems. Today, the fastest innovation is happening in the private sector, with companies like SpaceX, Planet, and Maxar, which are launching thousands of satellites at a fraction of the cost and time. The US Space Force's 2024 commercial space strategy made it official, outlining a plan to buy what we can and build only what we must. This hybrid approach means weaving commercial satellites into military networks for everything from communications to tracking objects in orbit. This makes the US space network far more resilient. If one military satellite is attacked, there are dozens, if not hundreds, of commercial backups ready to step in, providing redundancy and distributed capabilities. It also lets the military adapt much faster and more cost-effectively than its state-run rivals, leveraging the rapid pace of commercial innovation. This commercial integration is a fundamental shift, creating a more robust and adaptable space architecture. The problem is that our laws are stuck in the past. Treaties like the 1967 Outer Space Treaty are dangerously outdated. They were written for a different time, when space was largely unexplored, and the concept of orbital warfare was pure science fiction. They are full of loopholes for modern space warfare, failing to define what constitutes a weapon in space or what actions are permissible. While the US and its allies have pushed for new UN resolutions to ban destructive satellite tests and establish norms of behavior, they've been met with resistance. A clear sign that the deep geopolitical divides on Earth now extend all the way into orbit, making international consensus incredibly difficult to achieve. So are we ready for a war in space? The answer is complicated and, frankly, unsettling. The United States and its allies are preparing with a speed that was unimaginable a decade ago. They're building new tech, forging new alliances, and rewriting the rules of deterrence for the 21st century. Exercises like Resolute Space 2025 show they are actively training to fight in this new domain, developing the skills and coordination necessary for orbital conflict. But readiness here might be an illusion. Future wars will be fought in, through, and from space, making it a guaranteed target. And because our world is so interconnected, any conflict in orbit, no matter how small, could have catastrophic consequences on the ground, disrupting everything from financial markets to emergency services. The real goal, then, isn't just to prepare for a space war, but to prevent one from ever happening. The strategy is to build a network of alliances and technologies so powerful, so integrated, and so resilient that the price of starting a fight becomes unthinkable for any adversary. The final frontier is no longer just for exploration. It's the new high ground of global competition, a domain where the future of our civilization could be decided. The next world war might not start with tanks crossing a border, but with the silent, invisible takedown of the systems that hold our civilization together. And the struggle to stop that from happening, to ensure space remains a domain for peace and prosperity, is the defining geopolitical challenge of our time. If you found this deep dive into the silent war above our heads eye-opening, then you need to stay informed. Don't let the complexities of geopolitics and advanced technology leave you in the dark. Subscribe to our channel right now, hit that notification bell, and join our community of informed citizens. We break down these critical issues every week, giving you the insights you need to understand the world around you. Your awareness is your power.